Good afternoon. Welcome to another episode of Football Scientific. I'm Aaron Sauter. I cover the IFL, the UFL, the CFL for UFL News Hub, which is a website about the UFL, IFL, European League of Football, and other leagues. You can find my writing on the CFL News Hub, and primarily on those publications. I work on describing the activities of the Hamilton Tiger Cats and the CFL, the San Antonio Brahmas, and the UFL. And I cover the IFL as a whole league most of the time, either with game reviews or predictions. My predictions have been really successful. So this time of year, this week and next week really, kind of gets to an odd transition time. The NFL has completed a season. The Super Bowl's over. All Pro Bowl and all that stuff. The Senior Bowl, all the All-Star games for college football. Those things are over. College football is moving into spring practices, spring workouts, spring practices. That happens for the next couple of months based on the location of the teams. And the NFL, right now, the focus is on the Combine in Indianapolis, and that will transition into free agency. And then the NFL draft, and then things pick up in June with the NFL from there with mini camps and stuff. And the CFL free agency really has just cooled down. It went hard and heavy in February. It's really cooled down now, and they transitioned to combines. They have several levels of combines, trying to find international players and invite them to regional combines and take those to other combines. Really, so they want to gather as much talent as they can from different places, and then and load them into the CFL draft. There's also an international player draft, a global draft, CFL global draft. So that will all happen coming up in May. The NFL draft, of course, will probably be in April. I haven't looked at the dates yet. So that leaves us sitting here looking at indoor football. So I thought today I would talk about indoor football. The UFL is in training camp. The UFL released the signed contracts of all the players in the UFL, of all UFL teams, and everyone came to training camp. So all the talk about labor disputes and stuff is pretty much out the window. There were a few exceptions. J. Smith, the third-string quarterback for the Birmingham Stallions, he was their quarterback in 2022 when they won the USFL the first time. But he's really been a third-string quarterback recently. Last year he wasn't the quarterback that dressed. Usually it was Adrian Martinez and Matt Corral. So he was kind of the odd man out. I think he got tired of being the odd man out. Maybe he didn't feel he was getting paid enough. He wasn't playing. So let's move on and retire. The Battlehawks released 2 players because they failed their physical. And then 2 Panthers did that too. I say they failed their physical. That's not clear. James Larson, who's a UFL insider, he leaves tweets out all the time about things that happen in the UFL. He mentioned the Michigan Panthers and Battlehawks both released 2 players after they reported to camp because of injuries they had coming in. And I assume that the first step when they get guys into camp is to do a physical. In college, that's what you do. I play college football, and in college you report to camp, and the first thing you do, maybe the second day after you move in, is do a physical, and then that's where you're at. Then they do conditioning tests, and they see where you're at physically, and then you go from there. You do additional training, you get on a special diet, you do whatever you're supposed to do to get ready for training camp, and then be at your best going into the season. So I'm assuming the UFL does the same thing, NFL does the same thing. They bring you in, they transition you into camp, they do a physical to make sure you're okay, and then they start building you up from there. You should come in shape. If you're a professional, you come in shape. But, it's the UFL. Some guys don't come in shape. And then the NFL, a lot of guys don't come in shape. They have to go through and do special training programs. Albert Hainsworth several years ago to Washington, when they were still called the Washington Redskins. He got released. He was a huge money player, a big free agent, literally big free agent. He was a huge guy, and he did not have coming in shape, and he refused to get in shape, and they ended up cutting him. So that happens in the NFL too. That's just a reality of football as a whole. From the youth league up to the highest level of the pros. Players sometimes don't make great decisions. They don't want to put in the time. to be their best, and teams have to make a decision. I expect a few players to be signed by the Stallions and Battlehawks and Panthers this week early in camp. UFL camp can be a transition period where rosters change quite a bit. It's not like the NFL camps where you basically bring everyone in and then you cut people out systematically. And the UFL, some people may cut themselves out systematically because they're not getting paid a ton of money. So if it's not worth it to them, they'll bail, and then you got to replace that roster spot. The big news in UFL training camps will come when they do cut days, and that will tell us more about what the teams look like. So right now it's hard to really talk about teams in specifics. People try. There's UFL, what I call UFL bootlickers out there who are right now feel they're experts in each team. I don't see how you would be an expert in each team. How are you going to do that when the teams aren't experts in each team? It's hard to say. Okay, so we're going to transition into indoor football, really for today and tomorrow. I'm going to talk about the IFL pretty much the whole time. They're my favorite indoor football league because they're stable. They have a good product. It's fan-friendly. The prices are reasonable to go watch a game. It's a nice setup. It's a nice setup for indoor football. It's fun to watch. I think it's fun to play. It looks like players have a great time playing it. There's a lot of transition in rosters, which keeps parity in the league, and that's awesome because you don't have one team winning the league every year. The talent keeps moving around, so that gives a lot of questions coming into the season. I will say, in the IFL specifically, the teams are not really set until halfway through the season. They're going to keep transitioning. They're in training camp right now. They're going to cut some guys. But those guys that get cut may not be cut forever. They might come back through injuries. There's a lot of injuries in the IFL due to the nature of the league. And you'll see teams rebuilding their rosters up until mid-season or so, hoping to make a run for the playoffs and eventually an IFL National Championship. But it's a process for all those teams, and they go through a lot of stuff. So they're just starting that process now. We're going to talk about power rankings for the East Division of the IFL. The NAL has preseason games this weekend. They do preseason games. IFL does not do preseason games. UFL doesn't do preseason games. CFL does. So NAL is doing preseason games today. This is March 1st. I don't know when you're watching the video, but on March 1st at 7 p.m. on YouTube. They're advertising the Sioux City Bandits, who were in the championship game last year against Omaha Beef. They are playing against the Buffalo Ridge. I wrote it down somewhere. Buffalo Ridge Wildcats. I've never heard of them. So it's probably going to be a spanking. The Sioux City Bandits are a good team, and they're going to play the Buffalo Ridge Wildcats. If you want to watch a little football, that's fun to watch. It might be a blowout. The last NAL preseason game was a blowout. That was with Belmont playing during the week. Also tomorrow, NAL has a preseason game. The Omaha Beef are supposed to play the Minnesota Warriors. I saw a tweet that the Warriors would not be coming to that game. They're not going to play that game. But it's still being advertised on YouTube. It's still being advertised to the NAL website. So Omaha Beef may play somebody in the preseason game tomorrow. They were the best team in the league last year. They're very good. They've transitioned from the CIF. So they've been slowly building up for years. And they're a very well-built team, a very good team. I think they blow out the Minnesota Warriors. I think the Minnesota Warriors probably felt the same way. They're like, hey, we're probably going to get blown out in this game. Maybe we should do something else. So they might find someone for them to play. They were looking for a game. We'll see. Those leagues I mentioned earlier this week are a little bit like semi-pro, where teams are flighty. When the NAL gets rolling, it is more predictable. It's not quite as good as the IFL. The IFL is the gold standard right now for indoor football. That's why I'm going to talk specifically about the IFL power rankings, because I can predict what's going to happen in that league. And the NAL, right now, there's so much movement. The preseason games, you don't really get much from them. They blow teams out. The Rougarou last week. They beat the Dallas Force or whatever. I've never heard of them. And they play in the lower league. And they beat them 55, 20-something. It was a fun game to watch. I'd never watched the Rougarou play. So there might be some value in watching those NL games if you're really deep into this thing. I'm deep into this thing. I'll probably watch them. Okay. The AF1 kicks off as the first indoor league playing. They'll play games next week, March 8th. They have games scheduled. I'm not going to talk about them because I think they're a money scam. I think they're a scam. They're using the old names of arena football leagues that people loved in the 90s. They loved them in the 90s, maybe a little bit in the 2000s. And they're using those names to scam people for money. There's a 50-50 chance they're going to play any of those games, including the ones next week, March 8th. I don't know where you can watch them. I think Evergreen Streaming has it, and then maybe Vice TV, I heard. I don't know. I don't have cable. I'm probably not going to watch that. So I'm probably not going to talk about it either because I feel like they're setting people up. I view AF1 a lot like Little Caesars Pizza if the following was true. Okay? So, Little Caesars Pizza, everyone knows it. It existed back in the day. It may not be the best pizza, but it's available. Let's imagine Little Caesars delivered pizza. They don't do that anymore. You go pick it up, hot and ready pizza. They could be a sponsor. Let's go, Little Caesars. Let's be a sponsor. Step up. Send me some money. I'll probably change my tune about your product. I think the pizza's okay. Don't let it get cold. It's good. If it gets cold, it gets a little weird. It gets a little hard on the crust and a little chewy on the cheese. But other than that, good products. I view the AF1 as Little Caesars that delivers. But here's the deal. It's Little Caesars. You recognize the name. You don't necessarily trust it. And they charge you $85 per pizza. What? That's the most expensive tickets. That's the most expensive people or pizza in the game. Yes. If you try to go to a Nashville Cats game, which I looked into, it's like $85 for a ticket in the cheap seats. No, I'm not going to go to that. I'm not going to go to a game that may or not be played against a team that may or may not exist. $85? It cost me $10 to go to the Birmingham Stallions game. $10 to go watch a higher level of football. I'm not paying $75 or $85 to watch the Nashville Cats or not watch the Nashville Cats because the other team didn't show up. That's why I view AF1 as like Little Caesars, but you know the product, you may not trust it. It's going to be delivered, maybe 50-50 chance, and it's $85 per pizza. No one's going to buy that pizza. They're out of business. I'm not saying AF1's a bad league. Yeah, I am. I am saying the AF1's a bad league. It's a bad idea. Okay? All right. So, enough ranting about the AF1. I could do that for a while. I don't like that league. I'd hate to say I hate that league, but I don't really know that league. You know, they're like a distant cousin. Who knows? I don't know what they do. Probably blocked them. Social media. All right. So, today I'm going to talk about the Eastern Division of the IFL, my power rankings for them. And I'm going to talk about the Western Division tomorrow and talk about that. They're in training camp. They start playing March 21st. If you don't know anything about the IFL, it's different from arena football. There's no nets. Okay? There are goalposts hanging from the ceiling. It's a 50-yard field. They play in hockey rinks for the most part. The game's a little bit different. It's 8-on-8, like an old-school arena football. But there's something called an alley. In the alley, on offense, you have 3 offensive linemen. You have a quarterback and a running back. And then on defense, and then you have receivers outside. One guy is on the line, and 2 has to go in motion, okay? They call that the, what do they call it? The waggle. This is the AFL calls the forward motion, the waggle for multiple players. They can get that high motion and come attack the line of scrimmage, okay? Defensively, they define 2 parts of the field. The alley, which is the tackle box. Okay, you can have 3 defensive linemen. You can have 3 a nose and 2 defensive ends. Previously, they had to be head up on everyone, but now they can have shades on the outside. You have a middle linebacker. Boom. That middle linebacker has to be outside the belt, and he traditionally had to be inside the alley. So in between the D lineman, and there's a belt from the line of scrimmage to 7 yards deep. And everyone had to be out of that except for a defensive lineman. That opens the league up to a lot of running game. You wouldn't think running game in arena football. It's a small field. Why don't you just throw the ball from your end zone to the other end zone and score touchdowns easily? Because there's several people in coverage. There's 4 people in coverage. If you don't put your running back out as a receiver, there's three receivers, 1 quarterback. There's 4 defenders in coverage, 2 corners, a safety, and you got an extra guy hanging out there. So you got to watch out where you throw the ball. Okay, you got to watch out where you throw the ball because you're going to throw picks. And that's really made a hard transition for teams. The Jacksonville Sharks, for example, San Antonio Gunslingers, they transitioned from the NAL, which had a different rule set up that was more passing driven, okay? And they have a really hard time transitioning to that because if you throw a bunch of passes, you're going to throw it right into coverage and get picked. And then it's like basketball. A good arena game, a good indoor football game, a good game in IFL is like basketball. You get the ball, you go score. They get the ball, you go score. You get a stop on defense, you go score, and now you win the game. You win. If you can score 50 points a game, you're a good team. If you can keep your team, you're facing under 50 points, you're a great team. Okay? That's how it should be. That wasn't how it was last year. The first couple of games, everyone started slow. There's no preseason games in the IFL, so it looked like some NFL games. Some 28, 25 games and stuff. That was a little boring. But it also good defensive football. And some of those defenses ended up being really good. So we'll talk about that a little bit today. Okay? All right. So that's how the IFL game is different from Arena League. That's how it's different from every league. And you have running quarterbacks. Rule today. If you're a dual threat quarterback and you can throw the ball and you can run it equally well, a big quarterback who can throw is very good in the IFL. Probably going to have a chance to win the league. Okay? All right. So I'm going to talk about the Eastern Division and how I feel about each of those teams. This will be the East Division power rankings based off what I know about these teams coming into the season. Okay? All right. So first, the Jacksonville Sharks. The Jacksonville Sharks were new to the league last year. They came from an NAL. They had won the most NAL championships in the first 8 years of the NAL. They had won 3. They came from the AFL, one of the original Arena Football Leagues, version 2.0 or 3.0. I didn't pay close attention during those years, I guess. I was busy being a head football coach. So the Jacksonville Sharks came in. I felt they were going to do really well because they've only done well, and they're playing teams in the East Division. It's kind of like NBA basketball. The East Division is defensive and kind of soft. You get a good shooter, you're going to do really well. Okay? LeBron James was great in the East Division. So I figured the Jacksonville Sharks are going to have an easy transition from NAL into IFL, but I didn't know that much about the NAL. I still don't know much about the NAL. I know it's a little different, but I didn't know it was that different. The Sharks got smacked for the first half of the season. It took them forever to figure out how to play IFL football. Okay, and they came in saying they wanted the hardest schedule. The commissioner, Todd Tryon, said they wanted the hardest schedule. He gave it to them, and they were not ready for that. Okay, so how do you win games in IFL? Jacksonville Sharks had to figure that out. They've rebuilt their entire defense. Is it going to be better? I don't know. We haven't seen any games out of them, okay? But they have a defensive line that can pressure quarterbacks, a linebacker who can blitz, and some guys who can cover downfield, man coverage. They're going to have a tough defense, okay? Every team that can do that will have a tough defense, all right? The most important thing they've done was they went out and got running back Jimmy Robinson, who was the running back for the Massachusetts Pirates, who has been one of the best offensive weapons in the IFL the last 2 years and was the driving force for the Massachusetts Pirates, ending up in the IFL National Championship game, losing to the Arizona Rattlers. They got smacked by the Rattlers. But they had a chance. They were like the 3rd seed, but they ran off a bunch of wins in the playoffs and ended up in the league championship game because Jimmy Robinson was awesome. That guy's a tank. He's a tank. Jacksonville Sharks, they have a quarterback, Caleb Barker. They've rebuilt their offense. They've rebuilt their defense. Their head coach is used to winning these leagues. He's used to winning. Okay? So I believe he made the right decisions. I'm saying they're going to come out and be the best team in the East of the IFL. They will live up to what I figured they would be last year. They're going to run the ball down your throat. Quarterback's going to be able to throw the ball. Barker doesn't seem like much of a dual threat, which could be their one drawback. Their defense should be way better. Jacksonville Sharks should feast on the IFL East. Okay, we'll see. All right, that should be number 1, Jacksonville Sharks. Number 2, power ranking. The Frisco Fighters had traditionally been the best IFL East regular season team. I say regular season team because they would win 10, 11, 12 games and then get beat in the playoffs and never make the IFL National Championship game. Very frustrating. They had the best offense and the best defense, and they could never make it to the championship game. And then their ownership has some issues this year, and they have they went dormant. Where they didn't fold, I guess. They went dormant. And most of those players went to nearby Tulsa Oilers. The Tulsa Oilers are in Tulsa, Oklahoma. They were going to be rivals, but now a lot of those players, I think, transitioned there because it's not that far away from Frisco, which is, in northern Texas. So Tulsa's not that far away. That's taking Tulsa from being a non-playoff team to most likely being the second best team in the East Division. If the Sharks live up to what I expect them to do, Tulsa, who's also potentially the Frisco Fighters a little bit, will be the second best team. Now, you could be the first team. I'm not saying they're going to win a championship. They could be the number 1 seed in the East if Jacksonville doesn't step up. But Tulsa, they have great fans. They've been coming to games. They've been watching somewhat bad football. They've been watching the great defense with the bad offense. They've been watching their team lose close games. I think they can score 50 points a game with these Frisco Fighters being added, and the whole team's under 50 with it. They have a decent defense. I think they'll be a really tough team. Okay, and they could be the top team, but I got them number 2 right now. It's hard for me to see Tulsa immediately become the beast, even though I know they're partially the Frisco Fighters. Okay, number 3, Massachusetts Pirates. Massachusetts Pirates, no matter what, always have great talent. They're never good at retaining talent. So Jimmy Robinson leaving really isn't a big surprise to go to Jacksonville. But they're big on recruiting new talent. They're always getting Division I guys. They have the best talent in the league every year. They don't dominate the league the way they should. They probably should dominate the league every year. But they don't. They don't manage it well. Their coach, he's good, but he's not great. He doesn't manage his personnel well. They run the ball a lot. It's hard to say. I watch their games. And I always they're the hardest team to predict. I always predict they're going to be really good, and then they fall flat. I predict they're going to fall flat. They play really good. They're all over the place. Last year, they made the playoffs at number 3, and I figured they were going to come out and get beat. But then they won. They ended up in the IFL National Championship game, but then they got smacked by the Rattlers, so they got caught. They got caught by the Rattlers, okay? I think they'll be the number 3 team in the East, because I think they have the best talent in the East, but they don't have great leadership, so they're not going to be living up to their talent. They'll be the number 3 seed. Number 4 will be the Green Bay Blizzard. The Green Bay Blizzard have a strong defense. They have a great fan base. It snows inside their arena. That's all very cool. Green Bay is a great city for football. Last year, they had a breakout season. They had several. They used to be very good in AF2. Moving to the IFL with AF2 folding, which is Arena Football League 2. They existed previously. They really struggled transitioning. They've had a great defense, but never a very good offense. It's hard to say if they're a running team or a passing team. I don't know. They didn't really have a lot of identity, I guess. Watching, I never felt like this is what the Green Bay Blizzard are about. But last year, they had 10 wins. I believe they won the East Division last year. They had played great defense. Their quarterback was a runner. That guy's pretty good. It was Max Myler. I don't think he may be back with them. He wasn't initially, but I think I saw this week he's back with them. Either way, they need to have a mobile quarterback. They need to have a guy who can pick up first downs, put the ball in the end zone. They're a strong defensive team. So if you can come out and play some offense and control the ball and put some points on the board, they're going to win some games. If they can't do that, if they throw interceptions and fumble the ball, they're going to lose a bunch of games. That's what they've done previously. Last year, what made them good was the defense was still awesome, but now their offense was not killing the team. Okay, the offense was putting it together, finishing drives. They deserve the win. They have the best, second best fans in the East. The Tulsa Oilers probably have the best. Those people are committed. It's only the third year of the team, though. The Blizzard have been committed for a lot longer, so they're probably the best. They're best fans. I don't know. Every team has good fans, but some fans show up and some fans do not. Some fans show up and dance and some fans show up and cheer. Blizzard fans dance and cheer, and there's a lot of them. Welcome to Green Bay. Okay, next. Okay, so before I go on to the next one, that's the top 4 in the East. Top 4 teams in the East make the playoffs. So I say, I'm going to review real quick. I think Jacksonville Sharks will be the number 1 seed in the East at the end of the season. I think number 2 will be the Tulsa Oilers, a.k.a. Frisco Fighters. Number 3 will be the Massachusetts Pirates. Number 4 will be the Green Bay Blizzard. I predict they'll make the playoffs, and that'll be what they're seeded. And they will all have a chance to make it to the IFL National Championship. This league is wide open. Okay, once you get to the playoffs, it's wide open. Any team can get hot and end up in the championship game. That's why it's fun to watch. It's fun to watch because it's hard to say what's going to happen every week. And the fact I've predicted 90% correct over the years, that's pretty amazing for a league with this much parity. Okay? All right, so there's 3 more teams in the East. The Quad City Steamwheelers. Last year they had a major quarterback issue. They used to have a quarterback, E.J. Hilliard. Great runner, not that great of a passer. People caught on to that. He got into the IFL National Championship game a couple of years ago, but the second year, people caught on, hey, this guy isn't that great of a passer. So if we can just make him run it all the time, he's going to be limited. And if we just bring 4, we bring our middle backer, and we put him on the quarterback, and we limit him and force him to throw passes, he's neutralized. And response to losing E.J. Hilliard, to moving on from E.J. Hilliard, they brought in 2 pocket passers. Now, pocket passers would look good in the UFL. They look good in the NFL. They look great in the CFL. Lots of space. But in the IFL, there's tight passing windows. You got to put the ball right on them if you want to do that, and most quarterbacks can't do it, and the receivers are not where you expect them to be all the time unless they're wide open downfield. Okay? So a runner is great because if I can run everyone off, okay, and I can break contain, and I can dodge that middle linebacker blitzing me, I can pick up first downs. First down, first down, first down, touchdown. First down, first down, first down, touchdown. That's how you win IFL games. Little Lord, first down, first down, first down, touchdown. That's what you got to do, okay? Quad City's getting Daquan Neal, who played for the Panthers, the Bay Area Panthers. He was a good quarterback. They were the 2 seed in the West. That's tough to do. That's a competitive division. He used to play for Vegas. They weren't the best. Daquan Neal, good dual threat quarterback. I think the Steelers will be better. I think if the rest of the East wasn't so tough, Jacksonville, Tulsa, Massachusetts, Green Bay, I think Quad City will be one of the top 4 teams. They may beat out the Blizzard this year. Blizzard were amazing last year, but they don't do that again. Quad City Steelers will beat them out. Okay, but I predict right now Green Bay is better. I think the first year you're bringing a new guy in, it might take a minute to get some chemistry. They were a low-scoring team until mid-season or so, and they were still low-scoring a little bit after that. So they have to get that fixed. Okay, so I got them at number 5 outside the playoffs right now. That can change with injuries and stuff. Injuries will change this league completely. Number 6, the Iowa Barnstormers. They got a new quarterback. They probably got several new quarterbacks. They had quarterbacks before. Everyone keeps getting injured for the Iowa Barnstormers. A couple of years ago, the quarterback for Arizona Rattlers, Drew Powell, played for them. I think he got them to a championship game. They had a chance to be the best team in the league. The Iowa Barnstormers are the team Kurt Warner played for in the Arena Football League. They have some tradition. They've been around for a long time. They got decent fan support currently, but they've been just destroyed by injuries the last 2 years. Destroyed by injuries. By like week 3, their starters are gone, man. And you can't do that in IFL. Teams are not deep. You got 25 people on your roster, and you're going to have to fill those gaps with people all the time. And if you have injuries constantly, you're never going to have any chemistry. And that's what happens to Iowa Barnstormers. I don't have any reason to believe it's not going to be the same this year. Of course, if everyone above them gets injured and has a rough time, they may be able to put it together and make a playoff run. But I don't think so. I think they're going to be at number 6. And then number 7 is the Fishers Freight in Indiana, which is a new team, which kind of bridges the gap. In the East, everyone's spread out. Tulsa, Green Bay, Jacksonville, Massachusetts. You got, Quad City in Iowa. And now you had everyone spread out. Sioux Falls used to be a team. They're over here somewhere on the map. Okay. So it was really spread out in the East. Travel costs were crazy, probably. But they've added a Fisher's Freight. The Sioux Falls Storm are no longer in the league. They've gone dormant. So the Fisher's Freight have stepped in as an expansion team. Now, they've got some coaches from the Bay Area Panthers. They got some people from the West I think know how to coach IFL football. Dixie Wooten III. These guys, if you know IFL football, you know those guys are good coaches, okay? But being an expansion team, learning how to play in the IFL, like the Sharks struggled with last year. The Sharks were really good and struggled to transition to the IFL. Coming as an expansion team, usually teams are one-win teams as expansion teams. The Northern Arizona Regulars, who won a national championship in their second year, was a one-win team in their first year. Second year they win the championship. First year, one-win team. Bay Area Panthers, first year, one-win team. Second year, IFL champions. You get it? Okay. San Diego Strike Force, West Coast. They have been horrible. Made a run last year, made the playoffs, probably the first time in, I think it was 5 years. They were an expansion team. It's tough to expand. Coming from a different league, it's tough to adjust. This is good football. IFL football is good football. It's streamed for free. Fisher's Freight is going to have a hard time with that, I think. Okay, good transition year. They survived this year. They don't fold, which I don't think they'll fold in the season, but they come back next year. I think they'll have a much better team. They'll understand, okay, this is what we got to do to win games, and we'll have a chance now. But right now, this year, it's going to be difficult. Okay, so that's the East Division of the IFL. I did a little dissing on the other indoor leagues. I talked a little trash about the CFL and whatever. It's just a downtime here, but it's a great time to talk about IFL football. Tomorrow I'm going to come back probably in the evening and talk about the Western Division. So that's the Eastern Division. We got Jacksonville, Tulsa, Massachusetts, Green Bay. I'm checking my list. We got Quad City Steamwheelers, Iowa Barnstormers, and Fisher's Freight in that order. I'm going to go watch a little NAL game tonight with the Sioux City Bandits and the Buffalo Ridge Wildcats. I had to look at the list on that and see what that is. We'll see how it goes. No promises. But one thing I do promise is Football Scientific will be back tomorrow, and I'll talk about the Western Divisions. The Western Division, the 7 West teams in the IFL, and we'll see what they're looking like. And it should be a fun time for if you enjoyed this, even with the rambling and the poor special effects and everything, if you're enjoying this, you're going to love tomorrow. If you don't enjoy this, let me know. Let me know, and I will talk about quantum physics. I'll talk about how I believe our known universe is split into two halves, antimatter and matter side. And black holes are a drain between them, and stars being a place where energy comes in from antimatter, and you go through black holes and go back to the matter goes back to the antimatter world to become tachyons, where time runs backwards. We could talk about that if you wanted to. This is a science channel too. I teach chemistry. I've taught physics in the past. I teach high school science. Okay, I'm not a professor. I could be, but it doesn't pay that well, and I don't want to write books. So that's the deal with that. I do want to make some more videos, I guess, though. So this is Aaron Sutter signing off. Check out the UFL News Hub, CFL News Hub. Read some articles about CFL and UFL. You'll see some things about the ELF in there. You'll see things about the IFL in there. If you like alternative football, let's check it out. If you like NFL football, watch the Combine. It's the Combine right now, okay? So that's the deal. Have a great day. Bye-bye.